Imagine cramming for hours, feeling weirdly confident, and then the moment you need that information, your brain just serves you static. You remember sitting there, reading, highlighting, maybe even rewriting notes, but when it counts, it's like your brain never showed up to class. Now imagine the opposite. You study once, review smart, and weeks later you can explain that topic clearly, without notes, under pressure. In this video, you're going to learn one method most people never even try that can make that your new normal. We live in a world where everyone is obsessed with consuming more videos, more online courses, more books, more study hacks. But your brain isn't rewarded for how much you consume, it's rewarded for what you can actually pull back out when you need it. So instead of giving you another list of random tips, you're going to learn one core method that quietly powers top students, sharp thinkers, and fast learners. Most people study by reading the same thing over and over until it feels familiar. The key word there is feels. Recognition tricks you. Your brain sees the page and thinks, oh yeah, this looks familiar, we're good. But the real test isn't, does this look familiar? The real test is, could I explain this to someone else from scratch without looking? Most of the time, that answer is a painful no. This is why you can feel super prepared and still blank out during a test, a presentation, or a client call. You trained recognition, not recall. You trained your eyes, not your brain. So the goal of this method is simple. Flip your learning from I've seen that to I can teach that. The method is called the Feynman Technique, named after Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. He was famous not just for being incredibly smart, but for being able to explain insanely complex topics in a way normal people could actually understand. His basic rule was brutally honest. If you cannot explain something simply, in everyday language, then you don't actually understand it yet. You might be able to repeat it, but you don't own it. The beauty of this method, you don't need fancy software, a perfect study environment, or superhuman focus. You need a topic, a piece of paper or a whiteboard, and a willingness to admit where you're confused. That last part might sting a little, but it's exactly what separates people who kind of know things from people who truly understand them. First, pick one specific thing you want to understand and remember. Not all of biology, not marketing, not entire programming language. Think smaller, how photosynthesis works, what a marketing funnel is, or how a for loop works in code. Write that topic at the top of your page. This is your boundary line. If you catch yourself drifting into other ideas, you gently pull yourself back and say, nope, just this one thing for now. This alone helps your brain. Instead of juggling 20 loose concepts, it knows exactly what today's mission is. Understand this. Your working memory is limited, and when you overload it, nothing sticks. By narrowing the target, you're giving your brain the best chance to build one solid, strong memory at a time. Now, pretend you're teaching this idea to a curious 10-year-old. They're smart, but they don't know any jargon, and they will absolutely call you out if you confuse them. On your page or whiteboard, start explaining the concept in the simplest language you possibly can. Use everyday examples, analogies, and little stories. If you're explaining the stock market, you might say, imagine a company is like a pizza. When you buy a share, you're buying a slice of that pizza. No equations, no charts, just a pizza and a slice. The rule here is brutal. If you catch yourself using big, complicated words, you either have to define them in simple language or replace them entirely. Jargon is often just camouflage for, I don't fully get this. This is where the magic happens. When you force yourself to explain something simply, your brain has to reorganize the information. It has to connect the dots, throw away the useless parts, and keep only what actually matters. Instead of seeing your topic as a collection of random facts, your brain starts to see structure, cause and effect, steps, relationships. The moment your brain sees that structure, your odds of remembering skyrocket. You can probably still remember simple explanations someone gave you years ago, but you almost never remember exact textbook paragraphs. That's the difference between information that passes through and information that sticks. Simple doesn't mean shallow, it means structured. Here's the part that most people never do. While you're explaining, you will get stuck. You'll hesitate, you'll think, wait, what comes next? Or why does that actually happen? Those moments are gold. That's your brain telling you right here, this is the part we don't really understand. Most people never see those gaps because rereading doesn't expose them. You just glide over them. On your page, literally circle or highlight the places where you got confused or where your explanation felt weak. These are now your learning targets, not the whole chapter, not the whole course, just these specific weak spots. It's like going from, I need to fix my whole house to, I just need to fix this one leaky pipe. Now, go back to your source material, the book, the video, the article, your notes, but with a mission. You're not rereading everything. You're hunting only for the answers to the gaps you just exposed. That means less time, more focus, and way more learning per minute. Fill those gaps deliberately. Once you've refreshed that part, close the source again. Then try once more to explain the entire concept from the top in your own simple words. You'll notice something. The second explanation flows more smoothly. You get stuck fewer times. You might even find yourself adding better examples and cleaner analogies. That feeling of, oh, now it makes sense, is your brain finally building a strong, connected memory, not just a fragile, temporary one. You've turned guessing into understanding. And once you reach the point where you can explain without looking, you're no longer just someone who memorized a line, you're someone who actually owns the idea. To really cement it, shape your explanation into a tiny story. Stories are how human brains have stored information for thousands of years. Give it a beginning, here's the problem or starting situation. Give it a middle, here's what's actually going on and how it works. And give it an end, here's why it matters and what it leads to. For example, with the stock market, companies need money to grow. That's the beginning. They sell slices of ownership called shares so people can invest. That's the middle. If the company grows and makes more profit, those slices become more valuable, so investors earn money. If you can tell that little story smoothly and confidently, you've crossed the line from "I've heard of this" to "I actually get this." What you're doing here is something called retrieval practice. You're actively pulling information out of your memory instead of passively looking at it. That pull is like a workout for your brain. Every time you retrieve and use the information, the memory trace gets stronger. A bit like reinforcing a path through a forest by walking it again and again. You're also making use of elaboration, which is just a fancy way of saying you're connecting new ideas to things you already know. When you tie a new concept to simple examples, stories, or analogies from your own life, your brain files it in a place where it's easy to find later. So this one technique quietly combines several of the most powerful learning principles without you needing to know any big words for them. Now, how do you make this stick long-term, not just for a week? You combine it with spaced repetition, revisiting the same concept after increasing gaps of time. Here's a simple schedule. Explain it today, explain it again tomorrow, then 3 days later, then a week later, then a month later. Each time you try to explain the concept from memory first, then check your notes if needed. Every spaced retrieval is like putting another layer of glue on that concept. Over time, the forgetting curve flattens, and the idea becomes surprisingly hard to forget. You don't need a special app for this either. A simple calendar or reminder list works. The key is that you're not just reviewing, you're re-explaining. Let's walk through this with a slightly more complex example. Say you're trying to learn how a sales funnel works in online business. Step 1, you write sales funnel at the top of your page. Step 2, you explain it like you're talking to a friend who's never done marketing. You might say, a sales funnel is just the path someone takes from first discovering you to actually buying from you. You keep going. Top of the funnel is how they find you, like TikToks, YouTube videos, or ads. Middle of the funnel is where they start trusting you, like email, helpful content, or webinars. Bottom of the funnel is where they buy, like your product page or sales call. Then you hit a gap. Maybe you realize you don't actually know how to measure if your funnel is working. You circle that. How do I know if this funnel is effective? Now you go back to your source material, learn about conversion rates and click-through rates, then you redo your explanation, but this time you add, at each step you can track how many people move forward. That tells you where your funnel is leaking. By the time you can explain that whole system clearly without notes, you're no longer just someone who watched a video about funnels.
You're someone who can design and improve one. There are a few easy ways to accidentally weaken this method. Mistake 1, reading while explaining. If you're staring at your notes the whole time, you're not retrieving, you're just paraphrasing. Make a rule, explain from memory first, then peek if you need to. That tiny bit of struggle is what makes your memory stronger. Mistake 2, choosing topics that are way too big. Learn physics is not a Feynman topic. Understand why objects fall at the same rate in a vacuum is. Break big subjects into small, standalone ideas. Each session should feel like solving one puzzle piece, not rebuilding the entire universe. Mistake 3, stopping when it feels uncomfortable. That moment when you think, ugh, this is hard, maybe I'm just bad at this, that is exactly when your brain is about to grow. If you push through that point, the payoff is huge. The Feynman technique turns that discomfort into a clear map of what to fix next. You don't need hours to use this technique. You can get serious results with a simple 10 to 15-minute routine. Pick one small concept. Spend 5 minutes reading or watching a clear explanation, then spend 5 to 10 minutes explaining it on paper or out loud using the Feynman steps. Simple explanation, find gaps, fix them, retell the story. If you do that once a day, that's 7 concepts a week. In a month, you've deeply understood 30 or more ideas. In a year, you're not just someone who consumes content, you're someone who builds real expertise. Anywhere you need to remember and use information, this works. School, work, business, or personal projects. So here's your challenge. Think of one thing you learned recently, maybe from a video, a book, a course, or your job. Right after this video, grab a piece of paper and try to explain it using this method. You will instantly see where your understanding is strong and where it's shaky. That alone is worth more than hours of passive review. If this helped you and gave you at least one, aha, that makes sense now, do 2 things to lock it in. First, teach this method to someone else. That will make you remember it. Second, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss more videos that show you how to learn, work, and think in a way that actually sticks. Because in the end, it's not about how much you see. It's about how much you can clearly explain, anytime, under pressure, without the notes.